Oh, what's up, internet? Welcome back to another video. We have the next-gen Nintendo wish list. So I got 3 items on this list. I'm going to run through them real quick, just because I've done this video like 5 times, and there's something about it I don't like each time. So, first up, backwards compatibility. Nintendo said something about backwards compatibility recently. I want it specifically physical backwards compatibility. I have a ton of Switch games. I know a lot of people out there do. I want to be able to put the cartridge in the system and have it play. That's pretty simple, right? I don't want it to be a thing where it's like, oh, you bought Breath of the Wild digitally on your Switch, so your Nintendo account transfers over so you could download it here. Like, that's not the same to me. And going off that, I don't want them to get too cute with the naming of the Switch. I want it to be something that's, like, obvious, like what we're talking about here. For one, this is all irrelevant if they end up going a completely different way and don't even have it be a Switch. They could go back to just having a console. They could want us to play with our feet, with our mind. It's Nintendo. You can never discount anything. They could just go off the wall. But what I mean mainly is with the naming convention. If it's a Switch 2 or a second Switch, I want it to be called the Switch 2. I'll settle for Super Switch. I don't want it to be something like the Switch Z, the Switch U, something where your average consumer is going to be confused and is going to have to ask people to explain it to them. That seems pretty simple, but with Nintendo, you can never know. And I also specifically don't want it to be called the new Nintendo Switch. That whole naming convention was always horrible. As someone who sells on eBay, it's horrible. You don't want that in your title. You don't want that to be the descriptor of your system. And lastly, this one's just a cosmetic thing for me as a collector of physical games. Don't do the same exact thing for cases. Now, I've never really been a big fan aesthetically of the wall of red that Switch collectors end up having. And especially because you can't really even see what's there unless you're like right up on it. Whereas like with, for instance, GameCube, you could, assuming you have better eyesight than I do, you can see from across the room, oh yeah, he's got Legend of Zelda. Oh yeah, he's got Wind Waker, he's got, Mario Sunshine, because all the spines look different. With the Switch, unless you're like right up on it, you can't see. Unless something has a ridiculous run-on title, or there's like maybe 4 or 5 games, Super Bomberman for one that I could think of off the top of my head, that use a different font on the spine. But don't do... Specifically, don't do the same thing that Xbox did between Xbox One and the Xbox Series X generation, where it's, here's the same case, very slight difference on what is on the case. So when you're in a store, you can't even tell, like, what system is this for? And I know there was a whole bunch of, like, blurring the lines of, like, compatibility of half the games in the first 3 years were branded Xbox One / Xbox Series X games. So it's like you took a half step forward, but you weren't ready to fully embrace the next generation for probably over half the generation. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't do the same thing. Like, I don't want to see games being released that could be played on both systems. I could see why they could possibly do that, but for instance, one of the main complaints people have had about Switch for the longest time is how far behind the other systems in terms of power it is. If a game could be played on the Switch, I don't want it being branded a Switch 2 game. Like, I want a next level of system, Like, I want something to be a little bit more powerful. I'm not looking for a PS5 portably. I don't care about that. But I don't really want Nintendo blurring the lines like Xbox and even to a degree PlayStation did, because there's so many games that were next-gen titles that were also released on PS4. But I feel like if I go on any longer in this video, I'm honestly going to just scrap it, because that's what's happened like 5 times in a row. So let me know in the comments below what you think about for your next gen Nintendo wish list, like what would be on it. Let me know if I'm off my rocker on any of these, and I'll be seeing you.